Well, we're all outside today. Got my plastic chair, my coffee. Just sitting here with the chickens. We're blending our two flocks. We got all the babies outside. They're kind of staying to themselves. And then all the big chickens. Hi, Junior. The white one here, that's Poopy Butt. It's getting a little windy, but they're all enjoying it. A little bit of chasing, a little bit of pecking. Nothing major. Nobody's drawing any blood. I'll probably have to put them all inside the coop tonight, these babies, because they ain't going to know to go in unless they follow the big chickens in. But we shall see. You know, some of them are venturing out into the extended run. And we got a little scratching pecker here. I don't have names for all of them yet. I figure time. Some of them have discovered the flock block. But it's all going good so far. And it's just like, you know, me and a cup of coffee. And a bunch of chickens. It's very therapeutic. Right, Poopy Butt? He's our big white rooster. He had a poopy butt for the first week when we got him as a peep. So that kind of stuck with him. And then that's Big Red. She's a Rhode Island Red. She's getting some hen saddles coming in the mail today I got from Amazon. Because apparently these two boys, they like mating with her. So she's starting to have a little feather loss. So she's going to get some hen saddle put on her. And I think the two light colored brown ones, they'll get some hen saddles too. Never thought at 59 years old I'd be a chicken farmer. But I love it. And then we got the 4 new peeps in the house. 2 golden comets, which I don't have, so I had to get them. And then 2 starlight green eggers, which I did have back at the old house, but I rehomed when I found out we weren't allowed to have more than 4 chickens. So I'm glad to get 2 of them back, but they seem to be doing good. They've already made a mess of their feed. Yeah, they'll scratch it and mess it all over the place. But they're in the house. They'll be in there for about 2 weeks, just till we're past the poopy butt stage, and then I'll bring them and put them underneath the roosting bars in the maternity ward / brooder that Rick built. I mean, they can be out here in about 2 weeks once we get past the poopy butt phase. But it's going pretty good. I really, really do love my chickens. Yeah, we got Nike, she lives in the dog yard. She thinks she's a beagle. Yeah, she has her own little coop house that we bought from Tractor Supply. So she goes in there at night. Unless it gets too cold, then I bring her in and put her in a chewy box overnight when it's too cold. But she's our remaining chicken from our very first flock from our Pleasant Gap house. And then these 10 adults, we got these 10 last February. And then the new 10 we got this February. And then the new babies, I think it'll be easier. They'll be able to come outside sooner because of the temperatures. Don't want to bring them out when it's too cold. But I think everybody should have chickens. It's very, very therapeutic. Hi, chickies. Hi, little chickies. It's like somebody asked me whether or not if having chickens was expensive, and it's really not. Yeah, I mean, you could go broke seriously if you bought something like the Carolina coops. I mean, Christ's sakes, they're the size of a 2-car garage. And could probably cost as much. Now, they're beautiful. They're extreme quality. But unless you got some serious dime, yeah, I don't really think anybody can afford them. Their cheapest coop is $2,000. You know, and what we've done here is our shed here, our storage shed is very large. I mean, not super huge, but, you know, it's 21 feet deep by 12 feet wide. And we took the remaining 5 feet at the very back and we turned that into our coop space. Now, I mean, it's Fort Knox on the inside there. We've got hardware wire that runs on the floor and up the walls, so that'll keep anything from getting in. We have an automatic door on the inside, so it's not exposed to the elements, and the shed is wired up for electric. And the automatic door opens in the morning and closes at night. I have it set on a timer. I can accommodate maybe 25, maybe 30 chicks inside the shed. Now over there, that was our grow out pen. I could put about 15 to 20 chicks in there to get them to about 12 weeks of age and then transfer them over to here, which is what I've done. But you know, you don't have to go broke to have chickens. You just don't. I mean, yeah, I've got the little extras. I've got cameras everywhere. You know, I've spent some decent money on some feeders and waters, but you know, I'd like to have the Coop Works water and feeder systems. They're the big silos, but you know, for a water and a feeder, heck, you know, you're $500. You know, to me, it's not necessary. You know, chickens don't care as long you got 3 main rules. Provide them shelter, food and water, and safety. They don't care what it looks like, but now I'm a little vain, I suppose, because, you know, code, a lot of people bitch and scream, you know, it's my property, I own it, code shouldn't, and zoning shouldn't have anything to tell me what to do with it. Well, I'll tell you what, I've seen some coops that people have built, and they look like a homeless encampment. And I just don't want anything like that on my land. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, build what you can with what you got. But, you know, don't let it turn into a junk pile and an eyesore that, you know, you're going to be embarrassed about. And I think that's where zoning and code actually are a good thing, because it keeps people from turning their backyard chickens into an eyesore. You know, now I'm out here every day. I feed, I water, you know, we're on a sand system inside the coop, so it's like scooping a big giant kitty litter, and I got a big scooper for that. You know, I scoop that every day into a bucket, and then I go out to the woods here and just basically pitch it in the woods. But you know, they're very therapeutic. You don't have to go broke to have chickens. And then with the cost of eggs right now, yeah, you're not going to save any money. Really, honestly. You know, right now eggs here are about $6, $7 a dozen. And they're not even pasture raised or free ranged. You know, they're your commercial battery hens. But you know, $6, $7 a dozen, you know, you're not going to save money if you go crazy on your chicken experience. Now, I mean, for me in the winter months, we probably spend $40 a month on feed. And that's about 100 pounds of chicken feed. And reason why is because they're more penned up in the winter. These chickens don't like to go out on snow. You know, Rick will come around with the side-by-side and he'll plow them an area just so that they've got some area that doesn't have snow. But generally, cold winter months, they're in the, you know, I wrap up this whole run with plastic, blocks all the winds off them, gives it almost like a greenhouse effect so that they can still come out in the run. But I go through about 2 50-pound bags a month in the winter because they're not free-ranging. About $20 a month in the nice weather because I can let them out and they can roam. But then when you're free-ranging, you also have the risk of any kind of daytime predators. I've lost 2 so far since we've been here to a fox or a hawk. I'm not really sure, I didn't see it. All I know is they were there one minute and gone the next. No feather piles, nothing to tell me what took them. They were just gone. It was like a grab and go. And we do know there is a fox. So I'm not free ranging for a while because we lost one of our uglies, one of our Americanas that lays the blue eggs. And so because of losing that one, I decided, well, I'm going to just keep them penned up for a while. Maybe this fox will find the other people's chickens and go have lunch there, you know. But when I free range, I only go through maybe 150-pound bag in a month. And I go to a local feed store. And the local feed store is about maybe $15 for a 50-pound bag. And it's locally made. All the ingredients are from local farms. You know, it's a better quality. It's fresher. It ain't been sitting on a store pallet in Tractor Supply or Rural King or Menards or any of them. Hasn't been sitting on a shelf for God knows how long. And it's really, really fun, you know, to be able to have chickens. I do sell my eggs. I've got 2 customers that will buy eggs so far. And believe it or not, me and Rick don't eat a lot of eggs. But yet, I've got 25 chickens. It's kind of crazy. But, you know, I don't care. We enjoy them. You know, Nike, our deck chicken, which I just saw walking around. I'm letting her out today so she can run around. There she is. There's Nike. What you doing, Mama? She ain't never had chicks, but she's the oldest. But I let her out a little bit, especially if I'm outside. This way she can at least she can get more than just, you know, she stays in the dog yard. She lives on the deck. She has her own house. She thinks she's a beagle. She mooches just like a dog when you're trying to eat something, or except for her, she'll get in your lap. She's very demanding. But, you know, it's a lot of fun. You don't have to go broke to have chickens. I mean, yeah, I have security cameras, and that's really for my own peace of mind that, you know, I can, you know, turn on my phone or my tablet. I can see 4 cameras at one time. Yeah, I've got 3 in the coop area, 1 in this run, and then I got 1 on my back deck that actually swivels and pans, so I can actually monitor the yard. Yeah, my brother lives about a mile from me, and my son, Robert, he lives about a mile the other direction, and he's had a bear on his front porch. So I don't like coming out here at night. I really don't want to see a bear, so I'll put the camera on so I can monitor things if I feel the need to. Yeah, or if there's any disruptions going on, I can flick on a camera and see what's going on. I can actually talk to my chickens through my camera. Poopy butt, what are you doing? Huh? What you doing? But, you know, I mean, having the cameras, that gives me some peace of mind. Yeah, I mean, we do have weapons. Yeah, I've got 2 shotguns and a handgun. I'm not afraid to use them. Anything that comes on my property to come kill my chickens, you know, I got acres of woods behind me. It's just a done deal, you know. I hate the thought of having to do it, and I wouldn't want to do it, but my flock comes first. These are our pets that happen to give us eggs. But they are my little cuties. That one here, she's got little black specks on the back of her neck feathers, so she's Sunshine. The other one back there that looks like her, that's Buttercup. The ugly looking one here, and she ain't got like a big comb, that's Lee. We lost her partner, which was Ugg. And then there's Silver Lace Wyandotte, that's Lacey. She lays a nice big brown egg. And then we got Poopy Bud, he's the papa. And then that's his son, Junior. This is Big Red, she's a Rhode Island Red. The rooster's kind of like her, so she's got some hen saddles coming. And then the black one here, Poopy Butt, your tail feathers are in the way. Okay, that's Mama. That's Blackie. She hatched out Junior and another black chicken, which we call Chirpy. She's, I think, inside in the nesting box. But now since she's a crossbreed between the white rooster and the black copper Moran, Chirpy lays green eggs. So she's now technically an Easter egger, you know, but I don't know. I really do like having them. I think everybody should have backyard chickens. I mean, your eggs are better, they're fresher. You know, you're not going to save any money if you go crazy, you know, with expensive coops and runs. And, you know, like I said, you know, people copy the Carolina coops or they buy the Carolina coops. And let me tell you, you could be, you know, upwards of $5,000 just to get a minimal setup if you're going to go crazy. You know, like I said, I think we spent $150 to convert the back of this shed. These 2 cages are from Amazon. We got these, I think these were about $170 a piece, but it's snap and click and put together. Yeah, I've got the 2 of them connected with hose clamps so they ain't going nowhere. And then they're strapped. I hear you. And then they're strapped to the shed wall. And then they're staked all the way around, and I brought the chicken wire down out onto the ground and piled heavy rocks and some blocks on them. So my setup here, this ain't going nowhere. I mean, we had these tornado-style winds last month, and we had a tree fall over in the backyard, and this cage didn't budge. So I'm pretty confident. I mean, for winter, we did add 2x4s just to keep the roof up. You know, because these do have a tendency, you know, if you don't clear the snow off, they will fold in on themselves. So, you know, with being retired, you know, obviously I've got the ability to come out and clear the snow off if I need to. And that's pretty much what I do. But like I said, I wrap the sides in the semi-clear plastic, and that keeps all the snow and the wind and the rain out. But we really do enjoy having chickens. But if you're going to get chickens, you know, you don't have to go broke to do it. They're therapeutic. You get fresh eggs. You get better quality eggs. You know, these store-bought ones, you know, they're washed, the bloom's removed, they're bleached. You know, God knows what's leaching in through the shell. You know, I don't wash our eggs unless they're dirty, and I don't normally get any dirty eggs. Our eggs are normally clean. Yeah, but I do refrigerate them even though I don't need to. Yeah, they can sit on the counter for up to a month. You know, in the refrigerator for a couple of months. But it's nice. You know, I like on a day like today, it's a little windy because we have potential thunderstorms coming. And Rick's gonna mow this property because I've got like dandelion craziness going on out here. Yeah, but it's nice. You know, I take my plastic chair here. Yeah, sit my fat butt down. I can have my coffee, hang out with my chickens. Right now, today is basically monitoring because of bringing out the 10 babies just to make sure we ain't got no serious picking. You know, I mean, it's normal. They're going to chase the babies around. Right, Poopy Butt? But everything is really just establishing the pecking order. But, you know, I'm not seeing too much terrible bullying. You know, the bigger chickens will come over and peck them and chase them away. But you just want to make sure that your younger chickens still have access to the food and water, and that they're not being chased away from that, because they do need to eat too. Right, babies? Yep, that's a lavender Orpington. I've never had one of them before. And then this one here, that's a blue Plymouth Rock. And then we got a black, what is it, a black sex link. And then this one here is, that's a black sex link. Oh, and this one down here, that's an Easter egger, or olive egger. I like having the different breeds. I like having the Little House on the Prairie type of chickens, where ain't none of them really the same. And they're not show chickens. You know, to me, this is like, you know, Little House on the Prairie, the Waltons, you know, I just wanted normal chickens. I mean, yeah, they've got some exotic ones, you know, with frizzles and I don't know, the ones that look like they got pom-poms on their head. That's really not for me. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people, the neighbors down the road, they keep the bantam chickens, but they're what they call disposable. They raise the bantams so that if a predator's going to come and snatch a chicken, they're going to take a bantam before they take one of their full-size egg layers. So it's almost like they raise bantams for sacrifice. And I don't know, I mean, to each of their own, but, you know, we love our chickens. I'm not going to raise them up just so that they can be food for some other animal so they don't take the ones that lay the bigger eggs. But like I said, to each his own. You know, I like our chickens. The first chicken we lost was Pebbles, and she was kind of Rick's favorite. She was a bantam, but I was letting them free range and have a happy life because they love free ranging. But the problem with the free ranging is I can't keep an eye on them. And they wander all over the place. You know, we're sitting on a little over 2 acres. We've got 3 acres beside us that's not developed. We've got, I don't know, 6+ acres behind us that's not developed. So yeah, we have predators. But, you know, if I can't keep an eye on them and they do wander, they can go pretty far. But thankfully they do come in at night. But the problem is I can't keep an eye on them. If I see that I can't find them, I got to go outside with a bag of mealworms and call Chicky Chicky and shake the bag, and they all come running, which is really funny. Watching these chickens come, they're like, run, fly, run, fly, run, fly. They love their mealworms, let me tell you. But no, I was in here a week ago because at night on the camera, I've been seeing a mouse in this run here. So I came out because when I cleaned out the shed, I had mice in some bagged up stuff, which I threw away. But I added this 1/4-inch hardware cloth at the base of the shed because I think the mice or mouse was coming from under the shed, which, you know, stay under there. So I was out here, I pulled all the rocks away, and I added this hardware wire, so that goes down the shed and out onto the ground about a foot, and then I put the rocks all back. And while I was raking out here, I found the ramp that must have got covered over, and when I lifted the ramp up, I had a couple more mice run out of there, and they ran God knows where. I don't care, but they ran out of here. But in the nest under this old ramp that I was using at the door were all the little baby mice. And before I gross anybody out, here's your forewarning, okay? I took the hoe and I started hoeing these baby mice out into the run and calling for the chicks. The chickens came out. They were grabbing up all these baby mice, and they call them pinkies because they're still pink and they're like half the size of your pinky. So I was using the hoe and I was scooping them up and throwing them out, and the chickens were taking them and running off and eating them. So I'm like, well, that's at least, you know, 6 less mice to grow up and be running around here. I ain't got no time of day for it. And chickens, they'll eat a full-size mouse whole. They'll eat baby snakes. You know, if they can catch a chipmunk, they'll eat it. They're carnivores. They are, from what I've read, they are the closest living animal right now to the dinosaur period. But yeah, so I fed them, let them have at all these little baby mices. So I haven't seen any mice since. You know, I don't want to put any of this tomcat poison down underneath the shed because if they come out and they die in the run and the chickens eat them, then my chickens are poisoned. So I try to stay away from the poison. Did you babies go outside, huh? You going outside and go explore? Go ahead. They went out all on their own. I got 3 eggs in the nest box. I'll collect them later. What you doing, little babies? I said the only one here so far that's got a name is Rocky, because it was supposed to be a female, but I ended up with another rooster. So that's my rooster right here coming in. He was going to be a Roxanne and ended up being a Rocky. And I kind of knew from about 2 weeks of age, that was going to be a boy. Because normally hens, their combs don't start developing right away. And his comb was already getting big and starting to get red when he was about 2.5 weeks old. So I knew we had another rooster. Huh? Did we get another rooster? I know a lot of people, they take their extra roosters and they process them and eat them basically. You know, I don't have that in me. I'm a country girl, but I just ain't that country yet. I don't know if I could cull one. You know, I had one that was sick and, you know, needed somebody to help me put her down. Don't peck my chair. And he wanted to come over with 2 nails and an axe, and I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I tried treating her the best I could, but she'd been a problem, you know, and had issues pretty much her entire life. Yeah, so I just gave her the best I could and just let her go naturally. But then a lot of people, what they do with their dead animals like this, with chickens especially, they'll take them and put them out in the woods for the wildlife to basically eat them. And I don't know, I couldn't do that. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have had to find a way to dispose of her carcass, but still, I wasn't about to throw her carcass out in the woods and let her just be, you know, a meal for other animals. I just couldn't, I don't know, I couldn't do it. So she got double bagged and put out with the regular trash. Yeah, I'm not burying them because then that's going to draw, you know, draw predators. Yeah, some people bury them and have little mini funerals, and I'm like, nah, I ain't getting into that. Yeah, with having 25 chickens, I'd have all these holes dug, you know? Ain't doing it. But no, a lot of people, it's weird because in this chicken journey, I was trying to figure out how in the world do the chickens mate? Yeah, okay, the male climbs on the female, but the males don't have a penis. What they do is their vent hole has to basically connect to the female's vent hole where the egg comes out. Because, you know, chickens only have one butthole. You know, they pee and poop through one hole, and the hens lay an egg through the same hole, you know. But it's almost like their buttholes have to kiss. Because the male, his testicles are up inside of him. And then I was reading an article that if the hen don't like the rooster, she can actually expel his semen. She don't have to let his semen fertilize her eggs, which was something new. I didn't know. I was like, wow, can you imagine where the human population could be if we could just do that as women? Just expel the semen? Because we just don't want it? I mean, hell, you wouldn't even need a condom these days. I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know. I've learned a lot about having chickens. I think it's a great thing to do. You know, you get therapeutic. You know, you get fresh quality eggs. I don't know. To me, it's a win-win. Yeah, of course, you know, if you're vain and you want to go and dump a crazy load of money into your habitat for them, more power to you. Chickens don't care what it looks like. You need 3 things for having chickens: shelter, food and water, and protection. But roosters are good because they will protect their ladies. They'll warn them when there's a predator, whether it's like an aerial predator. You got to watch out for like hawks and owls. But roosters will sound off the alarm if there's something in the area that's spooking them. I've seen roosters on video actually fight off a hawk. That was amazing. Yeah, and like I said, our cage here isn't really predator proof, but you don't have much predators during the day. Most of your predators are nocturnal. You know, you got your skunks, your raccoons, you know, weasels, minks. You know, you got that, all that kind of stuff, plus bears and foxes. And depending where you're at, you know, you might have mountain lions, coyotes, wolves. Yeah. But like for during the day, I think we're pretty okay far-wise as, you know, from daytime, any kind of daytime predator. Your daytime predator is going to be mainly a hawk. And the occasional fox, which I think is what took my 2 chickens over the last 2 years. But it's not too bad. I mean, it's a little blustery today. But we're supposed to be actually a high of 82, 83. So I thought this would be a good day to try to bring the babies out. And so far, everybody seems to be doing their thing. You know, the babies are staying to themselves. And the bigs so far are staying to themselves with the occasional come over and peck one of them and chase them. But it's pretty good. But I said it's supposed to be 82, 83 today, possible thunderstorms. We were going to do dialysis for Rick tonight, but if we're going to have the thunderstorms and possible power outage, I think we'll just skip tonight and we'll treat tomorrow night. That's the nice thing about having home dialysis. You know, you treat on your schedule. But since they cath flowed his, he has a central venous line catheter in his chest. So his dialysis is really just plug and play, you know. Go through my protocols and basically hook up his tubes up to his catheter. One line takes his blood through the machine for cleaning and removing fluids, and then the other line brings it back to his body. But the nice thing too is that, you know, if I want to run them earlier, I can. If I want to run them later, I can. As long as we get 4 treatments in a calendar week, we're good. But since they put the Activase in his catheter on Friday at our dialysis clinic, it's been running beautiful again. But you know, the stuff's like, you know, $200 a treatment per lumen. And, you know, 2 months ago I said, I just don't know why you don't do both sides. Because if one side's having a problem, it's not long before the other side starts acting up. Yeah, but they're like, well, you know, they didn't have enough on hand. They complained about poopy butt. Then they complain that, you know, the stuff's expensive. You know, and I don't want to hear about the expense. His insurance pays for the damn shit. Give it to him. You know, so this week when we went for our monthly clinic, they put the Activase in both sides of his lumen. Let it sit and dwell overnight to the next day. Yeah, when I pulled it out, I was able to pull the waste blood out of both sides of his catheter. And it's like, you know, we didn't have the arterial jumping and spiking like it's been for the last 2 weeks. It was like perfect again. You know, so I really just wish they would just listen to me. You know, I'm the one that's, you know, doing his dialysis and hooking him up and running the machines and monitoring everything and administering his heparin, and, you know, I do everything but sit in the chair. You know, so I just really wish these people would listen to me. I know more what's going on with his catheter than they do. Because, you know, the longer we can keep it in and not have to change it out, the better. You know, even though a swap out's, you know, same day, you know, in and out, takes about 15 minutes under good conditions. But, you know, I just wish they would listen to me. You know, just to be able to go in, you know, it's a 90-minute drive one way to go to his dialysis center. We could switch to a local clinic, but I like the people we deal with. You know, they're good people, you know. And we're comfortable with them. That's like changing doctors after 20 years. Yeah, it's kind of hard to want to get involved with a whole new doctor and a whole new organization. So we are keeping with the DeVita and State College. We are slowly converting our other doctors, you know, cardiologists and stuff like that, down over here. You know, but anything specific, you know, specialty, like his vascular surgeon who puts his catheter in and roto-rooters his arteries and stuff, yeah, we're keeping with Dr. Simone up in State College. From what I've heard, this area doesn't have a good vascular surgeon. And I don't really want some half-ass quack, you know, doing anything to Rick. I'd rather stick with who we know, who's done the job, who's done it well, and not take that kind of risk just to save ourselves the 90-minute drive. Yeah, it ain't worth it. You know, but anyway, back to our chickens. They're all having a good time. I'm having a good time. It's nice and relaxing. What are you doing, Jersey? What, Jersey? You going back and forth? What are you doing? What? What's that? I don't know. She's pacing back and forth. I don't know what her problem is. What's up, girl? I don't know. Let me go see if I can turn around and see if she sees anything. No, I don't know what she's pacing for. I know the kids over in the double wide, they come out and play over here near the woods next to the driveway, so I don't know. But no, anyways, I'm gonna, I guess, get going here. My coffee's kind of chilled, so now I feel like I'm drinking iced coffee. But it's been fun. The baby chicks are accommodating and acclimating. They love that flock block. And the bigs are over here. But like I said, it's been windy, so that could be what's keeping the bigs in. Because otherwise they'd be out in the extension. Because the extension starts off the back of the covered run. So it starts off as 10 feet wide. And then around the 10 feet out mark, it starts getting wider. So we added roughly another 800 square foot onto the 200 square foot we already had. You know, now I kind of did it the cheap way. You know, I just did the chicken wire and some T-posts. And it's working. It's keeping them in. And then I rigged up one of my extra gates from these Amazon cages. I just got that basically hose clamped to the big T-posts. I got to do some tightening up on things there because it's a little wonky. But, well, that's about it for now. I'm going to get going. See everybody next time. Have a good day. Bye.